Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. We have Jannik Sinner versus Alexander Bublik in an extremely exciting fourth round matchup for the 2025 US Open. The head-to-head is 4-2 in favor of Jannik, but Alexander did win the most recent matchup between the two players. So could he now get the win again here at the US Open on some fast hard courts? We'll see, we'll break that down. Before we do get into it though, of course, remember to hit that like button, do subscribe if you're new, and do leave a rating or review if you are listening on a podcast platform. Shout out to our members as well. And also shout out to TennisViz and Tennis Insights for providing us with incredible insights as always for these ATP previews. We have a really good insight for this one, so stay tuned for that. Before we do get into that insight though, we're going to first of all talk about the head-to-head, then their routes to the fourth round. We'll touch on the tennis insight. Then we will talk strategically and tactically how it might play out, what's going to be important for both players. And then ultimately, I will give you guys my prediction. Bublik has been playing some pretty good tennis this year. I would say arguably career best tennis. Jannik has had a very good year so far, as we already know. 2 out of the 3 slams won. In the head-to-head, as I mentioned, Bublik won their most recent matchup, which was in Halle, a round of 16 matchup as well. It was on grass, of course. He lost the first set, but then came back strong on the second and third sets to take it 3-6, 6-3, 6-4. Sinner, though, beat him at Roland Garros, where he went on to make the final and, of course, have that epic final against Carlos Alcaraz. Won that one in straight sets, 6-1, 7-5, 6-love. That was on clay, so not particularly a good representation of the matchup. They then also played in Halle in 2023. Bublik again got the win there in the quarterfinal stage, and well, that was 7-5 to love retired. Jannik having to retire from that one. But then before that, Jannik had won the first 3 matches they had played in their rivalry, and one was in Herzogenaurach, which is a grass court tournament, won that 6-4, 6-2. Then in Miami, 7-6, 6-4, very, very tight quarterfinal match there. And then in Dubai, their first ever matchup in 2021, Jannik won that 2-6, 7-6, 6-4. So generally speaking, the sets, apart from I guess the Roland Garros match, have been very tight, majority of them. Bublik, let's talk about his route to the fourth round. So he played Marin Cilic, Skulke and Tommy Paul en route to this fourth round. The match against Cilic, I thought, was really impressive. 16 aces, 85% of first serves in, 79% of first serve points won. It was a really, really good performance. Won in straight sets, really convincing. Then against Skulke, again, a pretty good performance. 16 aces, 74% of first serves in, 78% of first serve points won. And the serve, for me, is quite an important stat for Bublik because he's got an incredibly big serve, and if it's not working, then he really struggles because his whole game, in my opinion, is based off that serve. That's not to say that's the only thing he has. As they mentioned on the Nothing Major podcast, he's not really a serve bot. He's almost a serve block bot with flair because he has the drop shot, the touch and feel, the volleys. He's also got good slice. The forehand, when it's working, is really good, but it can be a little bit iffy at times. But the serve is the one thing that you know more often than not is going to be firing, at least to some degree, and it's his biggest weapon, no doubt. Then came a very, 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 very tough match against Tommy Paul, and I mean, what a win it was for Bublik. And actually, I have to mention, he has not been broken at this tournament yet so far, which is incredible. Absolutely incredible. So he won that one 7-6, 6-7, 6-3, 6-7, 6-1. So lost the 2 tiebreakers to Tommy Paul, which is, yeah, why I was talking about the fact that he hasn't been broken yet, because Tommy Paul had 6 opportunities, couldn't take them. Skulke had 4, couldn't take them. Cilic had 2, couldn't take them. Yeah, I mean, that makes really good reading if you're a Bublik fan. He did say after in the post-match interview that he expects to be broken against Sinner, but you know what? If he's serving this well, Tommy Paul's a really good returner. Not as good as Sinner, but still, that's a mighty good effort from him, I have to say. For Jannik, it's been a similar story, actually, to Bublik, except instead of winning in 5 in the third round, he won in 4. Beat Kopriva and Popyrin in straight sets, really comprehensive performances there, to be honest. Didn't really break a sweat, if I'm being honest. And then against Shapovalov, it was again a pretty good performance. Has been struggling a little bit with his serve, and that happened in Cincinnati as well. And the same thing happened in this third round against Shapovalov, but still very impressive behind the first serve. 82% of first serve points won against Kopriva, 78% against Popyrin, and then 85% against Shapovalov. So Shapovalov was playing some really good tennis, so Jannik just weathered the storm, got it done in the end. So let's bring up this tennis insight, and then we can talk about what does it take for Bublik to get the win against Sinner, right? And we have here their Halle insights from the most recent match, which was, of course, only a few months back. And you can see how impressive the ratings are for Bublik in this one. So you can see the numbers in white and yellow are the ratings from the specific match that they played in Halle. On the sides, you can see the comparison between the ratings in that match compared to their 52-week average. So you can see Bublik, every single metric was higher than his 52-week average. For Jannik, every single metric was lower than his 52-week average. So it seemed like this match, according to the insights, was a matter of Bublik playing very well, because we'll look at the insights in a second, but he really was, I would say, redlining for that match, and Jannik was definitely below his normal level. And that combination meant Bublik took over and got the win. So, serve was a 9.0, which is phenomenal. The tour average is 7.9. I mean, that is absolutely bonkers from Bublik. And then, if we're talking about a 52-week average, it's plus 0.3, so up by 0.3, which is, yeah, I mean, just shows how good his serve is. That on average is at 8.7 is phenomenal. And then on return, he was at 7.1, which is 0.6 higher than his usual. That's pretty good. I mean, the tour average is 6.5, so 7.1 is a big hike up, especially on grass as well, which is a really tough surface to return on. Forehand at 8.6, that's a whopping 1.3 higher than his tour, well, the tour average is 7.5, but his normal average is 7.3, so it's below the tour average normally, but he went well above the tour average and beyond to 8.6, which is just, I mean, that's crazy, up 1.3 points there. And then on the backhand, tour average is 7.1, that's for the whole tour. His average, though, is 7, and he went up 0.9 points to a 7.9. So there's some massive gains that were made for him in this matchup in terms of shot quality. For Jannik, he was down 0.2 on serve at 8, down 0.2 on return at 7.9, down 0.8 on his forehand, which is 8.0 for him, and down 0.8 on his backhand, which is 7.6. Yeah, I mean, it's still incredible that if you look at his stats compared to the tour average, though, even though his stats are down, his insights are down for this match, and the quality, the shot quality isn't quite what it normally would be, it's still a lot higher than the tour average. So the only metric where Bublik actually wasn't as good as Sinner on the day was on return, which is to be expected, I think, because Sinner is such a good returner. And Bublik is not known for his returning acumen. So that's a pretty accurate representation, I think, of what you'd expect. But yeah, I mean, look, he played some phenomenal tennis in that one, I have to say. So that was a very impressive performance. Not just a pretty impressive performance, a very impressive performance. What I will say, though, in terms of this matchup, is obviously a different surface. So Bublik's slice is not going to be as potent on these hard courts. The hard courts are just so true. Jannik feels so comfortable, I think, moving and also hitting through the ball, knowing that he's not going to get any bounces that are not going to be true, and that gives him a lot of confidence, I think, when hitting through the ball, which is why he's so good on hard court, because his style really does suit the hard courts. But we know he can play on all surfaces now, and that makes him even more dangerous. What's going to be difficult for Bublik is the fact that Jannik has also adopted more variation in his game with the drop shot, which he's been utilizing quite a lot. And Bublik is I would say he's an underrated athlete. He's actually very athletic, but he's not the elite mover like a Jannik or a Carlos is, that's for sure. And his height obviously is a part of that. He's a very tall guy, and it does make it harder, no doubt. They're still very good movers at that height on tour, but it just makes it a little bit harder for him. What I would say is that Bublik needs to try and shorten the points and go very big on the forehand like he did in that Harlem matchup, and the insights prove that. He needs to go big on the forehand and be brave. And if he is, he gives himself a very good opportunity to get on the offense and I think go big. What's interesting is I've seen the Tennis Insights patterns of play, and Jannik, the one pattern of play, which is not, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a weakness, but it's somewhat a pattern of play that seems to be the least strong out of all of the plays that you can utilize against Jannik, is actually the forehand cross-court exchange. And that, I think, proves that Bublik's forehand is going to be really crucial in this match if he wants to have any chance. And he needs to go big cross-court. He can hit with a lot of spin and whip it, and he can also go flat and hard through the court. So he's going to have to execute, I think, that shot, especially the forehand cross, to a T, and to have a chance, I think, in this match. Serving wise, he has to serve big. He has to be serving lights out against Jannik. And then returning wise, he just needs to try and chip it back, stay in the point, and just apply pressure when he can against Jannik. But tiebreakers wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for someone like a Bublik, although Sinner does tend to navigate the tiebreakers really well. Very similar to like a Djokovic. He really does go into lockdown mode. So I think for Sasha, he's just going to have to go out there, and he probably will do so. He will go out there and play brave tennis and implement a very aggressive game plan. The question is just going to be, can he execute it? If he does, I think he puts himself in a pretty good position to at least take a set, maybe even two off Sinner. If not, then I think it's going to be a very comfortable straight set victory for Jannik. For Jannik, I think, look, he just needs to do what he normally does, which is be very consistent off that first ball on serve, be aggressive, get Bublik on the back foot, and try and ensure that Bublik's not able to hug the baseline and be offensive and push him back, because Jannik's very good defensively, and he will be good enough to make Bublik a lot of times play an extra shot or two. But Bublik also has the drop shot as well, which is very good. And if he's able to push Sinner quite far back, even someone as quick as Jannik is not going to be able to get all the drop shots that Bublik plays, which he utilised very well against Jannik in that Harlem match. Of course, it doesn't die as much on hardcore as it does on grass. But yeah, if I was Jannik, I would be trying my best to avoid playing on the back foot, because that's exactly where Bublik will want him to be. I would be pressing as much as possible and trying to take time away, which is what he is an absolute expert at. So Bublik needs to try and stop him from doing that and try and push Jannik back and force Jannik to give up a bit of his court positioning so that he can then open up more angles and be more aggressive, open up more options. It's going to be an interesting matchup, I have to say. I think, look, it is very tough to pick against Jannik, I think. As much as I really like Bublik's game, and I think he's a very talented player, but I'm going to pick Jannik. I think maybe Bublik will take one set off him, potentially. So I'll go Jannik in 4. They've never played at a Grand Slam before. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they were potentially due to play, I could be wrong, at Wimbledon. Maybe it wasn't that matchup, but he was due to play one of the top players. Bublik got upset early. He's got his, well, not his wish, but he's we've got our wish, and he's playing someone big here at the US Open. But yeah, I think Jannik in 4. Let me know in the comment section below what you think and why. Thanks very much, guys. Stay safe and well, and we'll see you in the next video.